All right. Hey family. Okay, so I haven't made a video in a really long time. Um, I've been trying to figure out the direction that I want to go in because I realize, I feel like money is extremely important in the Black community, and the information and um, knowledge of wealth and money in the Black community is extremely important. But I think it's just one of the things that's extremely important. So I have literally been trying to figure out exactly where I want to go with everything and how I want to do everything. And so there's been a lot going on lately. Yesterday, I went to the NFL protests in Manhattan on Park Avenue, and there was a lot of great people there. I thought there would be a lot more of us than there were. Maybe it's because of the holiday and a lot of people were away, or for whatever the reason was. But regardless of how many people were there, I think it was I don't know if beautiful is the right word, but empowering and enlightening experience. And I've always, if anybody follows me on my social media or anything else I do, I always say that I don't protest, I don't believe, and even conversations that I have, I say I don't protest, I don't believe in protest, whatever. And I realized after that protest that it's not that I don't believe in protest. Protesting is a powerful experience to have and for other people to watch. But I think that my issue with protesting comes from there's no action after the protest or the boycott or the march is over. That's where my issues come with regards to protesting and marching and boycotting. The concept of boycotting is that we're not going to do something or buy something or go somewhere, excuse me, until things get better. And it shouldn't be until things get better. If something happens, like in Starbucks, we shouldn't be boycotting Starbucks. That happened, and that's how they feel. And they have to create an entire curriculum on how to one human being to treat another human being based on their color, which is ridiculous. And not even necessarily just color, but culture in general. Because light skin, dark skin, even though those two people were dark skinned, there are light skinned people that are black, and you can tell that they're black, and they get mistreated as well. So it's not just about the actual physical color. It's also about the color of the culture. If the color of the culture is black, whether you're pale or blackety black, you're still a black person, and you're still under the stigma and the psychological mind frame that you're not good enough for other people. So I think that for Starbucks, I rarely went before this happened, but I'm not boycotting Starbucks. I'm just not going anymore. We have to stop asking asking for humanity from people, or trying to appeal to someone's humanity if they don't have it. Because if they had humanity, they wouldn't treat people the way that they treat people. If you have humanity, you won't treat people like that. Because there's some white people that don't treat people like that, but they're still under the umbrella of white privilege and white supremacy. So the concept of not all white people are racist. You may not feel it, but you're part of the systemic racism that exists, and nobody can say that it doesn't exist. It absolutely does. But the problem with the fact that it does is that it's mental. For black people, for white people, for everybody in between, the concept of racism is something that you learn. It's not something that you're born with. It's not something that you can go to the store and purchase. It's something that is taught to you. If you have a child that's black and a child that's white, if neither child has been taught about racism, they will play together and not have an issue. This is not something that we have to try to explain or try to appeal to people's humanity, because once you've been taught about racism and it's ingrained in your DNA, you can't unlearn it. You have to deprogram yourself, and you have to want to be deprogrammed. But I'm going off on a tangent because the purpose of what I'm talking about is we really need to stop asking, well, it's not really a tangent because it all ties in, but we really need to stop asking people for humanity. The NFL owners, the ones that created, or I don't know if it was the owner, whoever it was that created the policy to find the teams when they sit down or kneel during the national anthem. There was a point in history where first of all, there's a point in history where your religious belief or whatever it is, you didn't have to do certain things. So now, I mean, you have to prove that you're part of a certain religious background to not stand. You have to prove that it's because of religion as opposed to your moral beliefs on the way that your people are getting treated. You have to prove which one you're part of. So you have to start lying about our religion to get, to be treated a certain way. It doesn't make any sense. And the second part is, it's part of your fundamental right to notice when you're not being treated well. This country is not a dictatorship. If you feel like you're not getting treated well, you have the right to express that. And the fact that Colin Kaepernick kneeled, be out of respect, recommended by a veteran, out of respect for the country, but would not support a system that brutalized people for no reason other than being Black. And they've completely turned it around, as they do everything that we do. They've completely turned it around and made it into something that it's a disrespect to the flag. But it's amazing how you can say that and know that that's not the reason why. It's been explained countless times what the reason why is. And I had another reason, but talking about the first one made me completely go off on another tangent. So I'm going to try to circle back, and because excuse me, it's really frustrating to see us fighting so hard to appeal to their humanity. Because if they had the humanity that we're trying to appeal to, they wouldn't have made that policy in the first place. So the fact that they made that policy in the first place lets us know that they have no humanity. They have no, excuse me, there's no humanity behind the decision. There's no humanity behind the conversations. There's no humanity behind a NFL owner being called an owner in the first place. There's no humanity behind that. So I love our fight, but I think it's going in a direction where it's fruitless. It makes no sense to make this discussion and to talk about trying to appeal to someone and to make them treat us better, because we have to change the way that we think about ourselves. Because you can make a law. There can be a law about treating us better and treating the NFL players better and treating Black people on the street better. But if the people that created the negativity in the first place don't change the way that they think, our argument doesn't make sense. Our argument is not going to be fulfilled, because it doesn't matter if the law changes, because laws have changed before, but the mentality of the people making the laws is what didn't change. It was the thought process of the people making the law that stayed the same, but in making the law was a pacification. It was to pacify Black people and to say, okay, whatever. We're going to give you this law. We're going to make you think that you're free and make you think that you have certain rights. But then we're going to make a loophole and make it impossible for you to follow through with what we say. We're going to create laws for the police officers so that they have the ability to do what they need to do to feel safe, while legally being able to take a life and having no conscience about it at all. And you go to court and we're all standing outside with signs and we're all crying and we're all hashtagging on Instagram and Facebook and on Twitter and everything else. And the conviction The conviction never happened. Like they never are held accountable, and it's legal and it's in the law, and it's not going to change unless people change the way they think, unless our process for our need for equality changes. I was having a conversation earlier. Equality is not something that you earn. Equality is not something that you have to be given. Equality is not something that if you did this, you don't have it. If you that, you 1865, okay, we have it now. You the day you were born, the day you were conceived, the day that one parent, the other parent, and their energies came together and created you, that's the day that you got equality. The moment that you came out of your mother's womb is when you had equality. Equality is not something anybody can give you. And we have to start believing that we already have it. We don't need to ask for it. We don't need to find out if it's possible for us to have the privilege of having it, if we deserve it. Black people have equality. We just have to start believing it. Black people are equal, superior, better than, less than, depending on how you feel. Your equality is in your head. And when we keep having to ask for justice and ask for equality, that's the point where we don't believe that we have it. So how can anybody give you something if you don't believe that you have it already? You have to believe that you have it before someone can give it to you. And when we keep asking for these things, we're giving them all the power for our humanity, for our humanity. Anytime that we have to ask somebody to treat us properly, that means that we don't believe that we deserve it. We should not have to ask for it. We should understand that we have it and take the necessary steps to ensure that they know that we know that we have it. But when we have, I just and I'm gonna end it soon because I really like it. It's I can feel the feelings coming up, and I want to make sure that my direction is for the passion and not for the anger, because that's a conversation that I have often. The conversation has to be for the passion. It has to be for the action behind the anger, because passion is your actions behind the anger, your feelings and emotions behind the anger. It's not about trying to appeal to white people. It's not about trying to be equal to them. It's about understanding the fact that we were born with our own humanity, with our own equality, with our own good enough. We were born with our own good enough. We don't need to ask anybody to treat us properly. We have to believe that we need to treat ourselves properly. And until we can do that, all of our protests will be us walking and marching and speaking so eloquently as they were doing yesterday. They walk in their speeches. Tamika Mallory was walking in her speech. My son, everybody else was walking in their speeches. But we cannot let them walk alone. They are walking alone, and they are speaking the passion for all of us. And it is not fair. It's not fair to our ancestors that died for it with their passion. And it's not fair to our living people who are walking with the passion. Everybody that was there yesterday, some of them that are new to me, are walking with their passions. And if we aren't willing to walk next to them, behind them, in front of them, to protect them, we don't even deserve them to do things like what they did yesterday. If we aren't willing to do what Colin Kaepernick did, we do not deserve him to do what he was doing. He is doing something that some people would never do. For some of us, having that money is everything. And he gave all that up for something he believed in. And I've always said that I believe that he was put in the NFL and given a platform for a reason. That was not where he belongs, but that's where the Creator put him so that we could see him. And that for those of us that believed in what he stood for, we need to stand behind his passion and in front of his passion and next to it, beside him, as opposed to watching it on television and simultaneously watching the NFL on Sundays because we love the game so much. Would we watch a game of slavery just because we love the game of it? Would we watch it on television just because we grew up watching it? Is that what we are actually doing? How can we ourselves watch something like that and think that it's okay? We need to stop fighting each other. All we fight each other and we separate and we feel like we know what blackness is. If you are partially black, you're not black enough. If you're dating someone that we don't agree with, whether it's the same gender or whether it's somebody outside of our race, we don't think that we're black enough. We feel like we have the right to decide who's black enough and who's not. If somebody has a little bit of black in them, if you got melanin biologically is absolutely powerful. It's the dominant gene. So whether you believe it or not, if you have black, you black. And whether you believe it or whether somebody else believes it about somebody else, it doesn't matter. That fight that we're having with each other needs to stop. The fight that we're having with each other is more detrimental than white supremacy and white privilege and all those white police officers and black police officers that are killing black people in the street. That is nothing compared to what we're doing to each other. And it's absolutely disappointing to see what we're saying to each other, whether it's on social media or to each other's faces. Because most of the time it's on social media because we're Twitter bullies and we're thumb thugs and we can't say it to each other's faces. That needs to stop. And the moment that we allow ourselves to love each other, what other people think of us is not going to matter. And we're going to get to the point where we're going to be okay. But until we get to the point where we allow it and we know that we're born with privilege and equality and everything else, we're going to suffer. And these protests are going to keep happening. And the marches are going to keep happening. And the boycotts are going to keep happening as a reactive result. It's not being proactive. It's being reactive to things that keep happening to us because we're allowing it to happen. And not allowing it to happen intentionally, but because we're not taking the necessary steps to be okay within ourselves, we're being reactive. The only way that we can be proactive is if we stop allowing other people to give us equality and to give us freedom and to give us human being rights. The rights that you were born with as a human. The rights that you had before people that oppress you even existed. Until we allow ourselves to understand that that is a fact, we're going to keep suffering. And I don't want to suffer. I don't want to see it anymore. I don't want to watch it. I don't want to keep marching and see no door that I'm going to walk through of understanding. You're going to keep walking and protesting and marching and walking and leaving it up to everybody else, leaving it up to our leaders, leaving it up to people like my father, leaving it up to people like Tamika Mallory and everybody else that is actually living in their passion. We can't leave it up to everybody else. We can't leave it up to Colin Kaepernick. We can't leave it up to these people that are giving up their comfortability to make sure that we're comfortable. And hashtagging it is not going to fix it. You have to believe it and you have to act in it and not just write it down. And even if you write it down, like I'm a writer and that's my passion. I am a writer. If you write it down, make it so that other people can feel it. And I was listening to an interview that Lena Waithe had done the other day, and she said that if you're not willing to be vulnerable, then your work will probably be forgettable. And whether it's writing or physical, whether you're saying it or speaking it or doing it, if you aren't willing to be uncomfortable, you will be forgotten, and your fight will be forgotten, and who you are will be forgotten, and we'll never be all right. And that is one of the most powerful things I've heard recently. Like there's a lot of things that have gone on historically, but recently, if you aren't willing to be vulnerable, then your work is likely to be forgettable, and that's a fact. And I don't want to be forgettable. I don't want us to be forgettable, because when we're forgettable, that's when we get mistreated. So I am asking that we start working together as opposed to fighting each other and separating each other based on stupid things. Because our love is what's going to be, our love for each other is what's going to find us the door to walk out of, so that we don't have to deal with this anymore. We shouldn't have to keep walking down a long hallway and never see a door. Our love and dedication to our understanding that our humanity is what will keep us going. And something that we already have, something that we were born with, and something that the Creator gave us the right to the moment that He created us. She created us. That's where I stand. I stand with excelling our people. I don't stand with pro-Black, anti-progressive people. I denounce pro-Black, anti-progressive people. If you are not willing to move the culture forward, if all you want to do is keep Black people angry so that you can keep taking their money, and you are a Black person, you are worse than white supremacy. You are worse than white privilege. You are worse than everything that we are fighting against. If you have a black, brown, light brown, pale light brown, my face, if you have my complexion and you're a Black person and you are trying to keep Black people angry with no plan on progression, you are worse, far worse than anything that any KKK Nazi white supremacist could ever do to any of us. And I literally, if you with it, you with it. If you're not, move out of the way. Move the hell out of the way, because you're in the way. And if you won't get out of the way, we, the collective of Black people and brown people that want to move forward and want to realize that our equality is God-given, you're in the way, and we're going to move you out the way, because you're not welcome. And on that, I'm going to end it. And I appreciate everybody. If you made it this far, I appreciate if you could, you want to share, whatever you want to do. If you just want to listen, I appreciate you listening to the end. Even if you're going to listen halfway and listen to the rest later. I'm going to go and work on my own passion right now. Happy Saturday. It's real. I'm in New York. It's really nice. So I'm about to go work on my passion right now. Have a great day, everybody.